Don't worry about camera 7. That's what the manager said. First night, first 5 minutes. He listed it between don't leave the monitor room after midnight and don't let anyone in through the east entrance. 3 rules. Said all of them in the same flat tone. Like none of them mattered more than the others. I didn't ask questions. I needed the job. I should have asked questions. The building was a medical records facility on the edge of the city. 7 floors of filing cabinets, storage boxes, and shelving units that ran floor to ceiling. The kind of place that exists in every city and that nobody thinks about. Old concrete, narrow hallways, fluorescent lights that buzzed at a frequency just high enough to notice but not high enough to complain about. My shift ran 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. 5 nights a week. The monitor room was on the 2nd floor. Small. 1 desk, 1 rolling chair, a monitor bank with 12 camera feeds arranged in a grid. There was a radio on the shelf above the desk that pulled in one station clearly, some late-night talk show. I never turned it on. The silence felt safer than noise. For reasons I didn't understand at the time. Routine was simple. Sit, watch the screens, do a walking round at midnight and again at 3 a.m. Check doors, check stairwells, come back, sit down again. Camera 7 was in the bottom right corner of the monitor bank. It had been black since before I started. Not static. Static would have been something. Not glitching, not flickering. Just a clean, flat black rectangle. Like a screen that had never been turned on. I assumed it was a dead feed. A broken camera on the 3rd floor somewhere. I checked the binder my first week, the building layout, the camera assignments, and confirmed it. Camera 7 covered a room labeled Archive B. 3rd floor, no windows, climate controlled. I noted it, figured maintenance would deal with it eventually, and stopped thinking about it. I stopped thinking about a lot of things I shouldn't have. Week 3, Tuesday night, 1:47 a.m. I was eating a sandwich, half watching the feeds, when something moved on camera 4. East hallway, 2nd floor. It wasn't dramatic. That's important. It wasn't a figure walking through the frame or a door swinging open. It was a shadow. A low, sliding darkness that crossed the bottom left corner of the feed in less than a second. The kind of movement you catch with your peripheral vision and immediately doubt. I put the sandwich down, rewound the feed, watched it again at half speed. There it was. Something moved through the frame, low to the ground, and was gone. I told myself rat. Old building, old walls, plenty of places for something to nest. Made sense. I did my 3 a.m. round early, took the flashlight down the east hallway on the 2nd floor, swept it corner to corner. Nothing. No animal. No droppings. No smell. The hallway was empty and quiet and smelled only like old paper and cold air. I stood there for a moment, listened. The fluorescent light above me buzzed. That was all. I went back downstairs, sat down, looked at the monitor bank. Camera 7 was black, same as always. I was almost back to the sandwich when I noticed it. The black was different. I sat forward, stared at it. It's hard to explain without sounding unhinged, but I'd been staring at those 12 feeds for 3 weeks. I knew what they looked like, and Camera 7's black had always been uniform. Flat. The kind of black you get from a dead signal. Featureless, like paint. That night, it had texture. Not a lot. Not something you'd notice if you weren't looking for it. But the darkness in that feed had depth. Like the camera was working fine. Like it was pointed at a room that was simply, completely dark. Not broken. Just unlit. Something was in there absorbing the light. I sat there staring at it until my eyes watered. I called the manager the next morning, right before his shift ended. Camera 7, I said. Archive B, the feed looks different. I think the camera might actually be working. Pause. Longer than it should have been for a simple question. Bulb burned out in that room, he said. Has been for a while. Maintenance hasn't gotten to it. How long? I asked. Another pause. A while, he said. Don't worry about it. He hung up before I could say anything else. I sat with the phone in my hand for a moment. Then I opened the binder again and looked up Archive B Climate Controlled. Key kept in the manager's office. Access log required for entry. I flipped to the access log section. Archive B had no entries, not a single one. The log went back 18 months, the full history of the binder, and that room had never been opened. Not once. Not by maintenance. Not by anyone. The footsteps started the following week. The first time, I thought it was the building settling. Old concrete, temperature changes at night, the kind of groaning a structure makes when it's been standing long enough. I noted it and moved on. The second time, I stopped what I was doing and sat very still. They were deliberate, not the random creaking of an old building. Measured footsteps directly above the monitor room, moving in a straight line. 8 steps in one direction. A pause, 8 steps back. The monitor room was on the 2nd floor. The floor above me was the 3rd. Archive B was on the 3rd floor. I pulled up every 3rd floor camera feed on the bank. Hallways empty, stairwell empty. Camera 6, which covered the corridor leading to Archive B, showed nothing, just the hallway, and at the end of it, the door to Archive B, closed. Still, the footsteps continued while I watched. I counted them again. 8 forward, pause, 8 back. Consistent, patient. Whatever was making that sound wasn't exploring. It wasn't wandering. It knew exactly how much space it had. I started keeping a log, dates, times, duration. Over the next 2 weeks, the footsteps happened 9 times. Always between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Always directly above me. Always 8 steps in each direction. On the 9th night, I called the non-emergency police line. 2 officers came, walked the floors with me, checked every room they could access. Found nothing. I could tell by their body language what they thought. Bored security guard, empty building, too much quiet and coffee. I didn't push it. We reached the 3rd floor, walked the corridor toward Archive B. One of the officers stopped at the door. Tried the handle out of habit. Locked. "What's in here?" he asked. "Storage," I said. "I don't have the key." He nodded, started to move on. And then I heard it. From behind the door. Faint enough that I held my breath to make sure I wasn't imagining it. A single slow creak. The sound of weight shifting on an old floor. 1 step. Just one. The officer was already 3 feet down the hallway. He hadn't stopped. Either he didn't hear it or he had and was pretending he hadn't. I didn't say anything. I don't know why. I just stood there looking at that door until he called back to me. We finished the walk. They left. I stood in the monitor room doorway for a long time before I sat back down. Then I looked at the monitor bank. Camera 7. Still black. But the texture was more pronounced now. The depth I'd noticed weeks ago was deeper. And in the very bottom left corner of the frame, barely visible, pale against the dark, there was a shape. Low. Still. At the absolute edge of what the camera could reach. I leaned close to the screen, stared at it. It was roughly the size and shape of a face, tilted upward, toward the camera. I did not look at camera 7 again that night. I sat with my back to the monitor bank until 6 a.m., watching the clock, not moving, not making a sound. I left a voicemail for the front desk the next afternoon and never went back. 4 months later, I was at a bar on the other side of the city. I got talking to a guy at the counter. He mentioned he'd done security work, mentioned the building almost in passing. I put my glass down. He'd worked the same position, same building, 3 years before me. I mentioned the footsteps. I mentioned camera 7. He didn't say anything for a moment. Archive B, he said. Not a question, a statement, like a word he'd been carrying for a long time and wasn't happy to put down. Yeah, I said. I reported it 4 months in, he said. Told the manager I was hearing things up there 2-3 times a week. Same thing he told you. Burned out bulb. Don't worry about it. He turned his glass slowly on the bar. I started keeping a log too. Did you keep a log? I nodded. He looked at me. Did you ever notice that it always stopped at exactly 3:58 a.m.? Every single time? I thought about my notes. I hadn't tracked end time specifically, but I pulled through the memory of those nights, checking the clock, getting close to 4 a.m. Yeah, I said slowly. Yeah, I think it did. He nodded, looked back at his drink. I tried to find out why once, he said. The 3:58 thing, whether something happened in that building at that time. Some incident, some reason. Did you find anything? He was quiet for a long moment. I found enough to stop looking, he said. He didn't say what it was, and I realized, sitting there, that I didn't want him to. Some things you carry with you your whole life, not because you couldn't find the answer, but because somewhere along the way, you understood that finding it was the worst thing that could happen to you. I still check the time when I wake up at night. If it's 3:58, I don't go back to sleep.